Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles, your favorite true crime podcast. I am Donnie, and with me is a man who was sober for 12 years, and then he turned 13. It's Dale.
Yeah, I made it.
He did, didn't he?
That's a 12-step program.
It is, ain't it? Hey, at least you done it.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yeah. Drink up, kid.
Kill it. Shotgun this.
Hey, what's going on today,
You
dude?
know, man. Same old, same old.
Same old. Doing an episode back in the Crack House.
That's right, man. Good times.
Yeah, no construction going on today, so we're good.
Yeah, no beating and banging up there or down here.
That's right. We just in the quiet today.
Yes.
You got any good shout-outs or anybody you want to talk about or anything you want to mention before we get going, dude? Nobody showing us any love?
No.
But if anybody wants to show us some love, they can go to the Apple Podcast, and they can click that 5-star, and they can leave a review. They can. And it will help us. And I can't express enough how much that helps.
Yes, tremendously.
It really does.
Tremendously.
It feeds that algorithm, and it really pushes us on up where people can find us.
They help us find us, man.
Yeah, and you can do it on Spotify. You can leave a rate there, and you can write something about each episode there.
Yes.
So
I
think those are the only two platforms you can actually rate from what I've seen.
Right.
I don't listen to different platforms, but...
No, but if there's any that you can, let us know.
Yeah. And also, you can go to the store page, get you something cool to wear. It's getting fall. You can get you a sweatshirt.
That's right.
Or something. Get you a hoodie.
Something, get you something.
And they got caps on there. You can get you a cap.
Right. Or you can shoot us an email, tell us what you think about it, or you can even go over to the website and leave us a voicemail.
That's right. There's a link there on the website.
That's right. It'll be cool. We'll play it right here, live and in living color.
Yeah, live. Recorded live. Other than that, Dale, after this short break, we're going to get going on this episode, dude.
Well, it's about time.
All right, we are back, and man, we got a crazy story this week.
Yeah,
we do. This is something I never heard of. We got to looking in it, and it's pretty fascinating.
It is wild. That's for sure.
But it starts on May the 7th of 1982 in Brooklyn, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when a lady by the name of Joan Kipp, she was a high school guidance counselor there. And she'd gotten home from work one day and looked the mailbox and looked all the packages there. And she opened a package up she got.
She did?
Yeah, her husband hadn't got home yet. She was just there by herself.
Yeah, she left work a little bit early on this day.
Mm-hmm.
Usually worked a little bit later, but they were getting ready to go out of town for a Mother's Day excursion.
That's right.
Going to Connecticut, I believe.
I think they had a house somewhere else or a place they could go and stay for weekends and stuff like that.
Yeah, they had a summer house up in Connecticut, and her daughter lived up that way as well.
Okay. But before we get into more of what happened on before we get going on more of that and what happened on May the 7th, 82, let's just talk a little bit of Joan's background.
Yeah, there ain't a lot here, but go ahead.
Yeah. Joan, she was born Joan Betty Dallas on December the 4th, 1927. And like I said, she lived there in Brooklyn, New York most of her life. And there she met and married a man by the name of Howard Kipp.
Yes.
K-I-P-P. And like I said, the second P is silent. And the couple, they had 2 children. They had a daughter named Doreen and a son named Craig. And like we said, Joan, she worked as a high school guidance counselor at the school district 20. And there she would end up supervising the counseling programs for the neighborhoods of Bay Ridge, Bensonhurst, and Borough Park.
Right.
So she was a pretty busy lady.
I guess Borough Park is in a borough.
I would say so.
And a borough is like a county.
I guess, or yeah, something like that.
They got boroughs, and Louisiana's got parishes, and everybody else has got counties. Is that how it works?
I think that's how it works. I've never been up there, so I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
But in 1982, like I said, Joan had worked as a guidance counselor for over 15 years.
Yes.
And her kids were grown. And Doreen, she was now in her early 30s. She lived in Connecticut.
Right.
She had a family of her own. And Craig, he was in his late 20s, and he was married and continued to live in that same area that Joan and her husband Howard lived in.
Yeah, just right up the street.
Yeah, about 1,000 feet away is what it was described.
Right, not far at all.
They were renting an apartment.
Yeah, in Bay Ridge.
Yeah. But in addition to Joan working as a high school guidance counselor, she also served as the treasurer of the Bay Ridge Community Council. And she was actually planning to run for the council's open vice president position. And she was actually expected to win that election.
I wonder what that is.
I don't really know.
Community council.
But she was a pretty popular lady and doing her job.
Apparently so.
Very busy.
Yes.
So getting back to this day, on May the 7th of 1982, like you said, she left work early, and she normally stayed at work till about 5 or 6 p.m., if not later.
Long day for school.
But like you said, she wanted to wrap things up because her and Howard were going to leave to go to their weekend getaway.
Yeah, on their summer home.
Yeah, they're in Connecticut. It was Lake Howard they were going to.
Lake Hayward.
Yeah, it was Lake Hayward they were going to. And it was pretty close to where their daughter Doreen lived.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they were going to meet there or if she was going to see them while they were gone that weekend. But at any rate, when she got home around 4:10 p.m., it was just a few minutes before Howard got home.
Well, that's probably on purpose. That's probably why she left early. They get home same time and bolt out.
Yeah.
Ready to roll.
Mm-hmm. But as Joan got home, she checked the mail, and there was a package in the mail. It was addressed to her.
Right. She
And
was a little excited, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was. And like you said, she believed it was a Mother's Day gift because it was Mother's Day weekend.
Right.
And she took the package in the house and started to open it and discovered it to be a cookbook. And it was a Sears cookbook that was titled The Quick and Delicious Gourmet Cookbook.
Well, now.
I didn't know Sears made cookbooks.
That must be fancy if it's gourmet.
Yeah, and quick. But like around at the time, at the time she was opening this package up, it was around 4:10 p.m., which the time Howard was getting home. She was opening this cookbook, and she opened up the cookbook.
Well, it had to be like 4:15. If she got home at 4:10, she couldn't open it unless she just opened it in the mail in the driveway.
Yeah, very true.
So we'll give her 4:15.
Yeah. But when she got this cookbook out of the box, she wanted to open it up, see if anybody wrote anything on the inside of it.
Or whatever.
Yeah, just open it up. But when she opened it up, it wasn't really a cookbook.
Well, it was.
Well, it was, but it had been modified to something else.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's probably a little lighter than it should be.
Yeah, she discovered that this book had been hollowed out. And inside of this book was a device which shot out like some kind of shrapnel or bullets in 3 directions there in the home.
It's basically an improvised bomb, basically.
It was.
Yeah.
And it shot 3 shots in total, 2 of which hit Joan in the abdomen. And in addition to the 2 shots fired by this contraption, there was a small explosion of high heat and shrapnel that caused burns to Joan's chest and hands.
So that's pretty bad there.
Yeah.
I mean, you open up something you're excited it's going to be a Mother's Day gift, and you open up, it's basically a bomb that's shooting out 3 bullets in 3 different directions.
That's definitely going to ruin your weekend.
Sure.
But Joan's husband, Howard, he got home at this time, and when he actually heard it outside,
yeah,
and he rushed in to help Joan, who was in shock and bent over bleeding.
Oh, yeah.
And they, let's see. So he called the paramedics or the EMS to come and get her.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, he was saying, he said, I was under the kitchen window in the driveway when I heard the explosion. I ran out of the house, and she was conscious, but she said, look at what they've done to me, and there may be others.
Yeah, there may be others.
That's kind of weird, ain't it?
Yeah. That is just weird.
Yeah, that one part really sticks with me. There may be others. Why would you say that right off the bat? Unless you're thinking, is there some kid you off pissed off at the school or something? Or why would you think,
Look what they did to me.
Right.
There may be others. That was, that stuck with them.
Yeah, it sticks with me because that's kind of like weird. It's like, what did you? Who is they, and what have you done to them for you to think right off the bat that somebody's done something to you? I mean, something's done something because you just got a bomb in the mail, but I don't know. It's kind of odd.
Yeah, but those were some of the Joan Kipp's last words.
Joan Kipp's.
Let me say it over. But these were some of Joan Kipp's last words. Because she was rushed to the nearby Lutheran hospital where they did surgery around 7:45 p.m. that evening. And approximately 3.5 hours after opening up what she thought was a Mother's Day gift, she died.
Hey,
yeah,
it's kind of odd they would wait 3 hours before they did the surgery.
I don't know. I guess they kept trying to get her stable. I don't know.
I guess. I don't know. It's just kind of odd.
Very, very weird.
A whole lot of odds coming in here right off the bat, isn't it?
Yeah. But the bomb that was used to kill Joan Kipp, which was inside this hollowed out Sears cookbook, was a pretty sophisticated design. Simple, but sophisticated.
Yeah. Somebody knew what they're doing for sure.
Yeah, very, very did. They knew what they were doing. But the device consisted of a 6-volt battery, which had been paired through a bit of some kind of electrical wiring to a couple of metal tubes. And the metal tubes, they had been filled. The metal tubes have been filled with some explosive powder and 3.22 caliber rifle shells. Now, Charles Abercrombie, he was the county's district attorney, assistant district attorney. This is what he said about the bomb. He said the tubes were positioned to hit something in the chest or higher.
Now, that don't make no sense to me.
No. But that's what the assistant district attorney said.
Well, he might have said that, but how in the hell can you say that when it's a book?
You don't know how you open up a book.
Right. Now, if you're sitting at a table and you open up the book, sure, because they're basically going to shoot straight out, right? I mean, if the table's and it's going to shoot that way, but
if you stand there holding it,
there's no way when you make exactly what you're going to say. If there's no way when you created this device, you're going to know how anybody opens the dang thing.
I think that's why they had 3 bullets in it, just to go in all different directions to hopefully hit something.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty wild.
But the investigators, let me start that over. But it seemed like this bomb had worked as intended, as 2 of the 3.22 cartridges that were fired from this device had struck Joan in the upper abdomen near her chest.
Right.
And the third, which was pointed in a different directions, it embedded itself in a nearby wall. So you just don't know which way it's going to go.
Yes, this is basically this stuff going every which way.
Exactly. Now the investigators, they began looking into this device itself. And this is when they learned how it had been constructed. It seemed like the person responsible had some in-depth knowledge of electrical wiring and probably built some similar devices in the past.
Well, it's not going to be the first one that they mail out, I'm sure.
Exactly. But the parts required weren't rare or hard to find. Some of the wires and battery and some gunpowder and some metal piping and a few 22 shells, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, basically I think it break down to it was a D-cell battery, some brake line, a lot of gunpowder, and the bullets off of a 22. I think it was just basically the bullet out of the top of the shell.
Yeah.
Like you pull the lead piece out and stick it in this metal pipe with a bunch of gunpowder and see what happens.
Yeah. Just throwing some shrapnel out there.
Right, with some way that they had it hooked to where when you open the book, the battery fired up and heated up the powder enough for the gunpowder to explode.
Yeah. But the detectives, they looked at the packaging, which the device had been mailed in, and discovered that it had been sent out of Staten Island.
Oh, I've been there before.
New York, so yeah. And in addition, investigators discovered that a note had been sent with the package, and it contained threats against Joan's family. And it read, "Dear Joan, you're dead."
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see how that's threats against her entire family when it says, "Dear Joan, you're dead."
That's pretty personal.
Yeah, that's. I think that's aimed at Joan.
Yeah, it didn't say, "Dear Joan, y'all are dead."
Yeah.
You are dead.
Yeah, so how do they read into that? Investigators get me sometimes.
And it is believed that Joan might have considered the bomb a sick prank gone wrong in the immediate aftermath of the explosion. As she told her husband, there may be others.
Oh, come on. Sick prank?
Yeah, I don't think it was no sick prank. But while they were waiting for the ambulance to arrive, she had told him to contact school officials from the district there where she worked. And she might believe that some other people might be in trouble too.
Right. Now that, I can see that part, contact the school and let everybody know, don't open no weird packages, blah, blah, blah. But sick prank gone wrong is more like a damn open a book and a pie comes out and hits you in the face, not a 3 bullets, 3 different way exploding fake zip gun.
But during our research, we didn't see anything of where they maybe went to the school and talked to anybody if they had
Did anybody else get one? Yeah,
or threats or anything.
Right. And I don't know, really. They say it's a zip gun, but it's not really a zip gun.
Yeah.
I think a zip gun is more like a crude-made firearm. Like a one-shot. Usually, it was just basically a barrel and a breech lock and a firing mechanism. So basically, it's a homemade gun. It kind of looks like a gun, or even maybe a thing like where a rubber band would pull back and shoot something and like a firing pin that would go into an actual bullet or something. So they call it. I think it was thing come up from more of the media calling it a zip gun.
That's what they were calling it.
Yeah. So I don't really consider this a zip gun, but we'll just go with it. Zip gun's more like a homemade gun, not a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
This is basically a bomb that shoots bullets. I think that's the only way they're getting zip gun out of it.
Yeah, this thing was just firing bullets in all directions. Just
Yeah.
hopefully hit something. Yeah,
It's basically a mini grenade, truthfully.
Kinda.
It's just kind of blowing out shrapnel and hoping for the best.
yeah. But the superintendent of the school district that Joan worked at expressed their disbelief at the entire ordeal. And according to them, they said Joan lived almost a sheltered kind of life. She was very family oriented, and it's hard to figure out how any of this could happen.
So basically, they're saying she ain't out here pissing off everybody.
No, she's doing her job and going home.
Right.
Yeah. And police announced that the packaging contained the explosive device had been sent through the U.S. Postal Service.
Right.
And it was estimated that the device was delivered around noon that day. And according to police, Captain Jack Clark, neither Joan nor her husband were at home at the time of the delivery.
Well, duh.
And it was believed that she knew, and it was believed that she was the first person home and she was the only one to handle the package inside. And according to the Captain Clark, he said they were investigating every possible angle and they're not ruling out anything.
Well, all that we already knew.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the real top police work there.
Now, the investigation quickly zeroed in on Joan's family right from the get-go. And not only her 2 adult children, but her husband, Howard, who also found himself, he's
a widower now.
Yeah, and he was in the crosshairs.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't like this either. Go ahead.
No, sometime later, he recalled his version of the events following his wife's death. He said, I gave them Joan's personal diary to look at. I gave them the keys to my shop so they could look at everything they wanted to about my life and about our lives. I didn't even ask them for a search warrant. They were in and out of this house for days, looking at everything, asking everything, knowing everything about my activities.
Right.
So he was pretty upfront from the get-go.
Yeah, he's like, here, do what you got to do. I didn't do it.
Come on in, look whatever you want to.
Why the hell would I do that?
You got free range, look whatever you want to.
Right.
But the police never confirmed that they were actually investigating Howard, her husband, as a person of interest. But it is believed, he was a suspect for a while.
Yeah, do they really have to confirm when they're in and out of the house for days looking at everything you've ever done?
Yeah, he was a suspect, no doubt.
Yeah.
But in addition to Joan's 31-year-old daughter, Doreen, who lived in Connecticut, she found herself facing the police spotlight, Dale. When she came into town for her mother's funeral, get this, on the day that her mom was laid to rest, Doreen was brought in for questioning. And based on her account, she was less than thrilled about this whole thing.
Yeah, she said, I was harassed. I felt my family needed to be protected by the police. Excuse me. I was harassed. I felt my family needed to be protected from the police. We were advised by lawyers to get that protection. I'm going to tell you what. On the day, if something like this happened and you're getting ready to put your mom in the ground and they don't take you in for question, I would have lost my shit.
Oh, yeah. Somebody's getting a cussing.
Yeah. They would have really been wanting to talk to me a long time after that because, they could have done that a lot better.
But, after Doreen was brought in for questioning on the same day as her mother's funeral, Doreen, she got combative.
I don't blame her.
Yeah.
Not a bit.
To the ongoing investigation and began to urge for family members to do the same. And this included her father, Howard, who was already viewed kind of suspiciously. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And her younger brother, Craig, who would become the main suspect in the bombing.
Can you imagine that, dude? You going into the funeral, they going to snatch you up and take you to do that on the same day?
Yeah. That'd be bad.
Yeah.
Now, the investigators, they got to looking at Craig, the 28-year-old son of Howard and Joan Kipp. And they found out that he had been harboring a grudge against his parents following his dismissal from the marine counseling business that his father, Howard, owned.
Right. Now, he had left the business a short time before this now.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the job where, this job, he would have gained knowledge of work, electrical wiring and from installations on ships and boats and this kind of thing, whatever they done at their marine consulting business. But I did see where his father said, the split was amicable. It wasn't like they were all pissed off because they let him go from there, but he just didn't want to do what needed to be done. He wasn't as good as the other guys was doing the wiring, and he didn't want to travel for work, and then the job he was going to have would require that, and he just didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This don't make a lot of sense to me.
But Craig, the son, he was 27 years old at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and he turned 28 just a short time later, and he was married, and he lived in Brierley Hall Apartments. This was along Marine Avenue. This was along Marine Avenue, just a couple blocks down from where his parents lived.
Right, close.
Yeah, very close.
I mean, if he was that pissed off, he'd just go down there and do something about it, would he? Why do you want to mail it?
Exactly.
And
And
if he wasn't smart enough to wire up the boat, I don't think he's making bombs in the basement.
And it would
or
be
in his apartment. He wouldn't even have a basement.
it wouldn't be hard to find out if he had been in Staten Island recently.
Right.
And lastly, whenever the police tried to interview Craig or bring him in for a polygraph, he had refused,
I don't blame him.
and that was his right, But we don't. I ain't gonna get all that.
Right. Well, the way I look at it, we've said on here a lot of times, that I wouldn't go either.
Yeah, I wouldn't take no polygraph.
No. No.
So on August the 9th of 1982, after returning from his family's summer vacation home in Connecticut, the same one that Joan Kipp was excited to go to, just a few months earlier,
Right.
28-year-old Craig Kipp was arrested. The son was arrested by investigators.
Yeah.
And with him were his wife, Susan, and his father, Howard.
Right.
And they were all shocked.
Yeah, flipping out. What the hell?
Yeah. And a newspaper called the Brooklyn Spectator, they spoke about their mood following the filing of the charges.
Mm-hmm.
The paper said both of them seemed surprised when police arrested Craig, but Craig didn't put up any struggle when the police arrested him.
What did they expect him to do? Break out in a fight?
And according to the paper, they swooped down on the apartment.
Swooped.
Yeah, that was the word, swooped. And Craig was officially booked on federal charges of mailing injurious articles, which carried with it the possible life sentence.
Yeah, because it was resulting in mailing was the death.
Yeah, the feds don't play on that stuff.
No. And that's good. This shouldn't be mailing bombs.
Now, there's a chief of detectives. His name was Robert Colangelo. Colangelo. And he said that Craig had become their prime suspect pretty early on and expected homicide charges to be filed against him, in addition to the charge he was arrested on.
Now, they didn't have nothing on this guy except for they thought he was mad because he got fired.
That's all they had, yeah. And them having a family, I don't know, like an ongoing argument between them, I don't know.
I don't know.
But that's all they had.
That's all it was, and then they're going to charge him?
I just wonder if they found anything in his apartment, bomb-making materials or anything like that.
Not that I know of.
I didn't hear anything.
They said that a German Shepherd said his sock smelled like one of the bombs,
Mm-hmm.
and then his handwriting looked similar to the handwriting in the note. But they said the note was block letters, and later handwriting experts said it's really hard to assign that to a certain person, block lettering. And somebody else said that the dog thing wasn't really...
Hit or miss kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. I think they should have had a lot more than arrest
I
him on
think they
that.
were just grabbing at straws, trying to figure out, find somebody to lay it on, truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the kid but blowed up his mama for him losing his job.
But in the process of Craig being arrested, police were making it very clear that they thought the mailing of the explosive device sent to Joan Kipp, which was addressed to her, that fell victim to this. Let's see. I ain't gonna read all that. Now, investigators describe the motive as a rocky parent-child relationship between Craig and his mom.
That's it.
And prosecutors even described his relationship with his mother as being one of hatred and bitterness.
Ooh.
But is that a cause for murder?
Right.
Yeah.
Or bomb it. I mean, listen, if he's that pissed off about it, he could just go down the street and do something.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just don't make sense. I mean, we do this a lot, and we've seen a lot of stuff happen to people. And I don't know. This one just don't feel right.
But everyone in the family disputed these allegations, including Craig's father, Howard.
Yeah.
Who was still upset of him losing his wife.
Right. Yeah, and they set his bail at $300,000, which is, on up there, but his daddy paid his bail and got him out.
Yeah, in 1982, $300,000, man, that was a lot of money.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That might be close to $1 million today.
Probably.
Yeah. But like I said, Craig's father paid the bail.
Yeah, so they was serious about it for sure.
Yeah.
But his daddy was also serious about, what the hell, and got him right out.
And like we talked about Howard, the dad, stated that Craig's departure from the marine consulting business was an amicable one,
Right.
built on mutual parting of ways than a firing.
Correct.
So there wasn't no work thing going on there. It was just a mutual agreement.
Now, who knows what the real story is, but I mean, I just don't think if his dad, I mean, come on, if he knew that something was that bad, I think he would tell it because it's his wife and she's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he would protect the son if he thought he killed her.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I agree.
I mean, that's a lot of money, and then he still also got to look. It's not what y'all are making it out to be. It's basically what he's saying.
But they did say that Craig did have some drug abuse problems. He was smoking some marijuana and possibly doing some other things.
Yeah, but even his sister and his dad said it wasn't. He didn't have no serious problems. And if he's just smoking weed over on the thing, I don't think that's I don't know. I think that's just a moot point. He ain't gonna get high and make a bomb.
I don't think he is either.
Might eat some cereal, but he ain't gonna make a bomb.
So in June of 1983, citing a lack of evidence, pinning Craig Kipp to this crime of his mom, murdering his mom, the charges against him were dropped by the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office.
Yeah.
I don't think he had any choice. They shouldn't even arrested him.
Right. I don't think he had nothing to begin with.
Now, Charles Abercrombie, who handled the prosecution, said the handwriting analysis performed early on provided a link between Craig and the explosive device. But later analysis performed by some other firms and experts struggled to find any similarities.
I just think they're trying to pin it on him.
Yeah. They even said, like you said, it was very difficult to link block lettering to individual people.
Yeah.
And this district attorney, Abercrombie, also stated that their only other piece of compelling evidence was the packaging sniffing German Shepherd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not very credible either.
Nope.
Not without more concrete evidence, and just like I said.
So with the
How
release,
the hell they think his socks sound like smell like a bomb anyway?
yeah, I've smelled some socks that smelled like bombs too. But with the release of Craig Kipp from possible charges, the case of Joan Kipp, it rode cold, man. Her death remained a terrifying outlier in the local news.
Yeah.
A lone woman there being struck by an explosive device that was mailed to her house.
Yeah, in a hollowed out cookbook.
That's crazy.
A gourmet cookbook.
Yeah. But both of her children, they returned to their families eventually, and Joan's entire family had moved out of the state.
Right. Hell, everybody did.
Yeah, Doreen had already lived in Connecticut at the time,
Yeah.
Mom and Dad, but, Craig would do the same with his wife, Susan.
Hell, even Howard left.
Yeah. But Howard even ended up moving out of state to Massachusetts.
Yeah. He ended up remarrying, and he'd just keep holding out for justice, hoping they'd find out something.
Trying to find something.
Yeah. But everybody got the hell out of there, didn't they?
They did. But despite gaining distance from the scene of the murder, there was always that nagging thought in everyone's mind that Joan was, she was the only intended target of, let me start that over.
Yeah.
Now, despite gaining distance from the scene of the murder, there was also a nagging thought in everyone's mind that Joan Kipp, the only intended target of the person that killed her. I still ain't reading that right.
Yeah, that don't make no damn sense. Was Joan the only attack, or was there more victims to come?
Okay.
Just say it your own way. Quit trying to read shit.
Now, despite gaining distance from the scene of the murder, there was always that nagging thought in everyone's mind: was Joan Kipp the only intended target?
Right.
Of the person that killed her, or were there other victims to come?
Right. And so she's the only one that come up with the one. So is this like just a random attack? Was she just a sole victim, or what's going on here?
So we get into those last words she said. There may be others.
Correct.
That, like you said, that.
And look what they've done to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of haunting, actually.
Yeah, that just blows my mind. There had to be some stuff going down, the threat at school or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't look into.
I mean, I just don't think somebody looked in the phone book and found a name and mailed a bomb to this one.
I don't think so either.
It's kind of personal, especially with the note.
Yes.
Yeah.
If
it was random, it'd be random.
Yeah, we're going to get into more of this note a little bit later, but, having her name on it.
Right.
So we're moving up to October of 1993.
93.
Yeah. And there was a man named Anthony Lenza.
This is like 10 years later?
Yeah. Okay. 10, 11 years later. Anthony Lenza went on vacation with his wife. And Anthony was a retired sanitation worker from Staten Island. He was 68 years old. His wife, Connie, was a year younger than him, and the two lived in the neighborhood of Westerly. This was along Dickey Avenue. And in October, they decided to go on a vacation, Dale.
Mm-hmm.
And they were heading northeastern Pennsylvania in the area of Pike County. Now, Anthony and Connie's children and grandchildren came to visit them, bringing up their mail from the last week or so.
So, damn, how long was they on this vacation?
Probably a while.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Here we brought all your mail.
So with the rest of their family around them, this was on October the 15th, Anthony and Connie began going through their untouched mail. And Anthony's attention was drawn to a bulky package that was addressed to him, which he began to open up. And inside this package was a blue velvet coin box.
Ooh, sounds fancy.
Yeah, which he would later describe as he sort of opened it upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the device that had been hidden inside the coin box went off.
Same kind of thing.
Yes, shooting off in 3 separate directions. Anthony and his wife Connie were both shot by the projectiles inside. And their 11-year-old granddaughter Liza, she was hit too. But thankfully all their injuries were treatable.
Right. So nobody was killed here.
No. But the investigators were stumped at what caused all this to start.
10 years later.
10 years, yeah.
Or 11, I guess, as you say.
10 to 11 years later. Now, police discovered that the device was similar to the one that had been sent out to Joan 10 years earlier.
Right.
It was in Brooklyn.
More than a decade.
Yeah,
That sounds fancy.
Yeah, both of these devices used a pair of 6-volt D batteries.
Right. It says 6 volt, which you'd be thinking about these big square ones or whatever they are, I think, or 12s or whatever, but it's basically a D battery.
Yeah, both had metal pipes taken from brake lines, fitted to form like a makeshift gun barrel. And in both devices, the triggering mechanism used a screw inside the little spring of a ballpoint pen.
I'm going to tell you, it'd have to be a pretty big coin box to have 2 D batteries in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see it in the book. It'd be plenty of room if it was a big book. But, you know, what I was thinking is like one of those little, like a jewelry box looking thing, but a little bit bigger. Like a 3x3 or, you know, by an inch thick or something.
It's probably just big enough
But
for the D batteries.
Yeah, it'd have to be, well, if you got to have enough room for the mechanism in there too. So it'd have to be pretty good size, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in addition to the labeling on the package, that was very similar to the typeface to the package that was sent to Joan Kipp back in '82. So the packaging was very similar. But all in all, this device and event was very similar to what had happened those 10 years later.
Right.
And thankfully nobody was killed. And police were just as stumped as to why all this happened. But like Joan Kipp and Anthony Lenza was a perfectly amicable individual who had no known history of legal or criminal trouble and had no enemies, Dale.
So far, the only thing they have in common is they're from New York, right?
That's
These
it.
were from Staten Island. The first one was not.
Nothing is linking up between these two at all.
Brooklyn, right? And then, except for that, and they were vacationing or fixing to.
Yeah. The vacation thing. So roughly 6 months later, this was on April the 5th of 1994, there was a similar incident unfolded. And this time back in Brooklyn. This was along Sheepshead Bay.
Right.
There was a lady by the name of Alice Caswell. She was 75 years old, and she lived in a small brick home for about 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she lived there with her husband, Norman, but he had passed away about 6 years earlier.
Okay.
So on April the 5th, this was around 1:20 p.m., Alice's usual postman, whose name was Richard, he dropped off a package in the mail slot of her front door. And the package was addressed to Richard McGarrell. This was Alice's brother,
Okay.
who was a retired customs agent and had worked at the Newark airport. Now, Richard had lived with Alice for a little while, but prior to this, he'd actually went to a
Assisted living.
retirement home.
Yeah.
But Alice continued to get his mail there from time to time, and she would usually open it up and go through it and look at it and weed out all the junk mail, I guess.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. You wouldn't want to, keep it all up and then take it to them is just trash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Alice did open this package, and a few minutes after receiving the package, she was opening it up and was immediately wounded by a blast.
Right.
And the device
again was pretty similar.
Yeah, it went off, and the shrapnel flying into Alice's stomach area. And she was pretty dazed, and she made her way outside, and she walked to a nearby neighbor's home. And there she got some attention, and the neighbor was able to call 911 and get some help for her.
911 or 911?
Yeah. But Alice was dazed, and she made her way outside and walked to a neighbor's home. And there she received attention and was able to call 911.
Yeah, which is pretty good for somebody, a lady 75 years old.
Exactly, and being shot.
Yeah.
But Alice was rushed to the nearby Kings County Hospital and being put in critical condition at one point, but was able to pull through and recover. And she did eventually make it back home, but police, they didn't know what was going on.
It's kind of odd, isn't it?
Yeah, they didn't.
So random.
Yeah.
Again, this is another New York resident.
But what's crazy is they were struggling to link all these together.
Yeah, me too.
The first two, Joan Kipp and Anthony Lenza, and their intended target was the person who opened the package.
Correct.
But now it was a 75-year-old woman, but the package was addressed to her retired brother who was in a nursing home.
Yeah, he was a retired customs agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just...
So he kind of worked for the state, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know. And she was a teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy was a sanitation worker, so they all working for some kind of service, but I don't know. Like, this one was mailed there, and they had no idea this guy didn't live there and hadn't lived there for, 10 years?
Maybe.
Or longer.
Yeah, their positions and their occupations didn't connect at all.
No, except for, some kind of service-related stuff.
Yeah. But investigators knew there must be something linking them together, but they couldn't figure out what.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
But
so random.
But like I said, at this point, the media had begun to refer to the making of these explosive devices as the zip gun bomber.
Right, like we said.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Now, it was a few weeks after Alice was injured by this bomb at her home, a New Yorker named Harold Ormsby, he noticed that his family had received a suspicious package.
Right.
And Howard,
luckily.
Yeah, he'd been paying attention to some of these stories in the news, and not only were there a trio of suspicious packages sent to people in New York, 2 in Brooklyn, 1 in Staten Island, but another bombing spree. This is called panic. And at the same time as this spree was going on, another opportunist was mailing out a package bomb in upstate New York.
So we got another one here?
Yeah. This bomber...
So wait a minute. So were we thinking this guy got one from a different guy?
That's what they're thinking.
Okay. I'm just trying to keep it straight.
Yeah, this bomber, his name was Michael T. Stevens, had mailed out 6 bombs to his girlfriend's relatives.
His ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, let me start that over. Now, this bomber named Michael T. Stevens had mailed out 6 bombs to his ex-girlfriend's relatives in an effort to keep her from running off with her child.
So what the hell? So wait, how does that make any sense?
It don't make any sense.
I don't want you to run off, so I'm going to kill your relatives.
Yeah, he lived in the area of Fort Covington, and all of his packages had been sent out from that area.
So they must have caught him quick.
Yeah, in April of 1994.
So I guess this guy was one of the relatives or something?
Could have been. Now, in April of 94, this Harold Ormsby noticed a package that his family had received, which had been mailed out from Fort Covington.
Okay.
And he stopped his son from opening it and called the police.
Gotcha.
And authorities, they took this package in and confirmed that it was a bomb.
Indeed.
Yeah. However, nothing else was been written about this event. And police tried to keep the details private.
Yeah, well, you don't want too much out.
Yeah, they didn't want any kind of false stuff getting out there either.
Right.
Crazy, man.
So this is a whole different side story of another bomber mailing out stuff that was caught quickly.
Very.
So, okay. In the midst of this other stuff. But even though I would assume it was a totally different device.
Yeah. But now the following month, May of 94, the investigators, they started focusing on one person of interest, Louis Coppola. He was a former U.S. Customs officer.
Okay.
And he was also a firearm instructor who was suspected of involvement with a similar incident. in the early morning hours of May 18th of 94. This is in the small town of Verplunk, New York. Now, I told you we'll stay in this case, Verplunk. This sounds like somebody dropped a rock in the water or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is the town of Verplunk, New York, the home of Gary and Joanne Dykeman. They were woke up by a small explosion. The blast came from the side of their home and thankfully didn't harm anyone.
So this is something different, is it?
But it did destroy an automobile and cause property damage, in addition to causing the family a great deal of anxiety and a lot of fear.
What the hell?
Yeah.
People in New York blowing up some stuff.
I'd be scared to death.
Yeah. I'm glad they don't have record boxes. We'd be in trouble.
Yeah, we ordered a lot of records. And the victims that were involved...
The victims?
Yeah, I can't talk to that. The victims were involved with a publishing company, which Louis Coppola had also been previously involved with. And police quickly focused in on him as a suspect, as they believed he had an axe to grind in regards to a motive.
I don't know why they would be on him, because, I mean, blowing up a car is totally different from this little miniature zip gun gimmick.
I think you're looking at everybody, because they don't have much to go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the same multi-department task force that was working on the unsolved zip bomb
Case.
Yeah, this, for the Joan Kipp and the others at the beginning, they focused in on Coppola, which included members of the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, as well as the U.S. Postal Inspectors.
And the detectives of the New York Police Department. So.
Yeah, they were all in on it.
Yeah.
So just 2 days after the blast in Verplunk, New York, the home of Louis Coppola was searched, and there the police officers found several pieces of bomb-making equipment, such as machinery, black powder, grenades, etc.
Okay.
And in addition, they also found an anarchist cookbook and an assortment of weapons and ammunitions.
I'm guessing the anarchist cookbook's probably not a good,
No, it don't
good
have.
thing to have.
It's probably not meatloaf and stuff in there.
No, it's not quick and gourmet for sure.
But what was most intriguing to them were a couple of newspaper clippings from a month earlier, which contained details about the explosives, that were mailed to the 75-year-old Alice Caswell in Brooklyn. This was the one that got
her brother.
Yeah, for her brother. And this Louis Coppola eventually faced charges related to the incident in Upper New York State, but was cleared of the mail bombing, about the zip gun bomber.
Right.
And investigators couldn't find any evidence linking him to the case.
So this is another thing not related to our case, but just going on at the same time.
Exactly. And this shows that they were looking into everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this guy's got grenades and stuff, so, he should be looked at.
Yeah. Now, on June the 27th of 1995, this was on a Tuesday, there was a young woman named Stephanie Gaffney. She was at her grandparents' apartment in New York, in Queens, New York. And Stephanie, who was then 18, was roughly 18 months pregnant. God damn. She's way overdue.
She's about to bust.
Yeah. Yeah, she's well overdue. Damn, lady, you're 18 months pregnant.
Going for 2.
Yeah. Now, Stephanie, then 18 years old, who was roughly 8 months pregnant at this point in the summer of 95, the apartment she was at, which belonged to her grandparents, was in the neighborhood of St. Albans, and she was living there for the time being. And while talking on the phone, Stephanie noticed that the mail had just been delivered, and she picked up the mail and noticed that there was a package addressed to a Gilmore or occupant.
Right.
Now, Gilmore was the surname of Stephanie's grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
He was an ex-New York police officer, as well as her uncle, who was the detective at the New York Police Department. In fact, just a few years before, in 92, Detective James Gilmore had played a vital role in the bust of a Dominican drug gang.
Okay.
Now, Stephanie, who decided to open up this package to see what was in it, quickly discovered that it wasn't what she expected, Dale.
No.
Mm-mm.
It was a book, but not the one she wanted.
Yeah, this device hidden inside a hollowed-out book exploded as...
it was kind of like the cookbook.
Yeah, and Stephanie was rushed to Jamaica Hospital Medical Center, where she was treated for burns to her abdomen, chest, and legs.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, both Stephanie and her unborn baby were unharmed.
Right.
But due to the distress caused to the baby, doctors were forced to induce labor the following day.
Right.
This is on June the 28th. And Stephanie then gave birth to a healthy baby girl that Wednesday evening. So everybody was good.
Yes. Yeah.
But Stephanie thinks that the only reason she survived the explosive device is because she held the book at an angle facing away from her.
Well, I think that's because she was on the phone at the same time. So she was probably, this time she was probably holding the phone with her chin. You know how you do?
Yeah.
Not a cell phone. This was probably a
Wall phone.
Yeah.
With a cord.
Which is a lot thicker than what we use today. So you that was the thing you did. You kind of hold it with your chin and your shoulder, and then she was probably had her head tilted and opened it up, kind of cocked sideways when she opened it, right?
Yep.
And luckily.
Yeah, luckily everybody survived.
Yes.
But many of these bombs and stuff drew comparisons between this case and that of the Unabomber. This was a name given to the bombing culprit that mailed out bombs to 16 different targets between 1978 and 1995.
Right.
And the device linked to the FBI case dubbed Unabomb was received in April of 95, just weeks before Stephanie Gaffney was injured. So
yeah, but this Unabomber, he was blowing up some big stuff. He wasn't sending little dinky grenade zip guns in the mail.
Book bombs.
Yeah, big stuff.
It was big stuff.
Yeah, way more explosive.
Yes. But
there's still more bombing going on at the same time. I'm like, wow, must have been the thing to do here.
But in April of 96, Ted Kaczynski, he was arrested in Montana.
Yeah.
For being the Unabomber.
His brother told on him.
Yeah, he did. So, let's see.
When he called it Unabomber because he was blowing up at universities to begin with.
Or just a lone bomber. I don't know how he got his name.
I thought it was from blowing up universities. Let me look. No, it don't matter, but it does now.
Yeah, look it up while I look over this.
Yeah. In fact, Unabomber was inspired by the case named Unabomb, which is derived from the university and airline bombing targets. So the UN is for university, the A is for airline, and the BOM is from the bombing, so the Unabomb.
Wow.
So let me say that officially.
Yeah. So getting back to more of these bombs, there was a man by the name of Richard Basile and his wife Marietta. They were retired real estate agents that lived in Brooklyn, New York, and both were in their late 70s. And they lived in a 2-story white stucco home in Bensonhurst along Bath Beach. And this home they loved, man. This was their little dream home. And on June the 20th of 1996, they received a package in the mail. And the package was addressed to Marietta, Richard's wife. But he decided to open it up for her.
Open up people's mail, see what you get you.
Yeah, that's what it gets you. And it seemed to have been sent by the March of Dimes of Greater New York. And it looked like it seemed to be like a videotape that had been mailed to him. And Richard opened the package and saw that, based on the container that it was sent in, that it was a videotape.
VHS, I would say.
I would say, yeah. Because you know how the little tapes would go into a little sleeve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either that or the plastic gimmicks that were much bigger.
Yeah. But it seemed to be a VHS videotape.
Correct.
And when he opened it, he was alarmed by the following blast, which shattered the nearby kitchen window. And there was a New York Times article that read, "The blast in the Basile's kitchen blew a hole through the window and damaged a wall."
That tickles me. Blew a hole through the window.
Yeah. Now, Kim Barris, he was the mail carrier that had delivered the package, and just a short time before had rushed into the home of the Basiles to help.
Reread that. He delivered a short time before.
Okay.
He didn't short time before rush in.
Now, Kim Barris, he was the mail carrier. He was the one that delivered the package, and just a short time beforehand, he rushed into the home
That's kind of odd. Ain't it?
Yeah, to help him out.
I mean, I get it, and as he's old, that's great that he helped him. But I mean, if he's, I mean, I guess I'm assuming here the mail carriers there probably are just walking down the road, probably.
Yeah,
I don't know how close these houses are or whatever, but if you delivered a short time before and then went by, kept on, and then you heard the thing to run back down there, it's kind of odd to me.
It was probably just a short time.
Yeah,
but it was. He even said that it looked like the tape was taken apart, and it looked like two barrels, one on each side. And he said he smelled smoke, and there was a little debris in the kitchen, and there were holes in the glass.
I wonder if the barrels were on the long end or the short end.
I don't know.
Huh.
Be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
But Ken, the postman that had delivered the package, was surprised to find both Richard and Marietta unharmed.
Yes.
And Richard was in the kitchen, and he had miraculously avoided all three of the firing bullets.
Okay, so if I had two barrels, one on each side, where does this third bullet come from?
I don't know.
So apparently it was more than two barrels.
You'd think.
Yeah.
And they said if he had opened it in another direction, he'd had probably bullets in his belly or stomach area.
So then maybe there was two barrels on one end and one on the other or something.
Could have been.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm just making a big thing out of it. Just, I want to know.
Yeah. Now, the explosive device mailed to the Basile family proved to be the last one from the current spree. Investigators were able to link the devices together based on their design. All were very similar to one another, with each hidden device containing a loaded gun barrels.
Well, kind of.
So to speak. And hid inside the hollowed-out objects. In most cases, this object was a book, or in other cases, a video cassette or a coin box, something that had to be opened up to spring that bomb off.
Correct. Well, it was like the first one was a book, then it was like a couple coin cases, then another book, then a video cassette box.
But in each case, the creator of the device had removed the firing pins from the projectiles used, which were 22 cartridges, and replaced them with electrical filaments. And these were then charged by the recipients of the packages opening them up. And this completed this electrical circuit that the culprit had created through the device inner wiring and creating enough heat to fire off these projectiles.
Right. Yeah, and I think he had added a bunch of gunpowder in there too, which would increase the chances of shrapnel. It just blew the stuff apart.
It increases the blast.
Yes.
And usually 3 bullets were fired off at once, which the barrels aimed at would usually be the victim's torso, their main body.
Whatever, depending on where you're holding it.
Exactly. And the design of each was pretty rudimentary, but requiring working knowledge of electrical wiring. And there was a postal inspector, U.S. postal inspector named Bart Favara. That's a tough name to say, Favara. Yeah. Mail bombings are never crudely made. It takes a pretty sophisticated individual to make a bomb.
Well, you mean if you're making a mail bomb, you're going to have to be able to first put it together and package it without blowing yourself up. And you're going to have to make it where it's ship worthy, where it won't go off in transit.
Yeah.
So it has to be done right, and then have the detonating thing set to where it has to be open to complete the circuit.
You're going to have to be pretty smart.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, especially if you still have your hands and you make bombs, you're getting pretty good, I guess.
Yep. And in addition to the devices being very similar to one another, the packaging was very similar. All were mailed in brown mailer bags and contained legitimate-looking return addresses, which made them appear legitimate. And in other words, they all looked like random pieces of junk mail. They usually purpose for some kind of free offer or something.
Well, it looks
kind
like
of a gift or something.
Yeah, something to entice you to open it.
Exactly.
You know, and it looked like it came from, like you said, that one was March of Dimes or whatever, stuff like that. So it looked real. It wasn't like from here. This is from the bomber or whatever.
Were you going to be wanting to open it and see what it is? Yeah.
Ooh, what is this?
To get your attention.
Yeah. Ooh, it's a record.
Oh, yeah. This record's a blast. Okay.
That was pretty good. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to figure out where to go. Now, because of the seemingly random nature of all the crimes, investigators were never able to figure out why the culprits seemed to be targeting the recipients of the devices.
It was all random.
Yeah, it was impossible for investigators to determine whether or not they had been chosen for any reason or just completely random. There's a guy, Kevin B. Barry. He was a retired bomb squad detective from the NYPD, and he voiced concerns over the lack of any leads for the investigation to pursue, stating that the person who mailed these devices, he said he was using presentation devices or coin boxes with some kind of spring activated firing device. They all came through the mail. They never came up with a rhyme or reason on who he was targeting.
Yeah, correct.
Yes. But following the explosion of the package sent to Anthony Lenza in October of 93, investigators were able to determine that all the devices built, the so-called zip guns, were very similar to one another. This linked the subsequent mail bombs from 93 to 96. So the mysterious death of Joan Kipp, our first victim.
In 1982.
Yes.
I was going to say 92, but that ain't right. Yeah, so they're thinking these are all the same people based on the similarity of the zip gun.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it kind of sounds like the one in 82 could be possibly not related at all to the ones 11 years later, but I don't know, because it was different to me.
Yeah.
It was more personal with the note and all that. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm going on down. I ain't going to read all these.
Yeah, it's getting a little monotonous.
So one of the working theories for investigators was that the bombings were part of an extortion attempt. Perhaps someone had tried blackmailing these victims, and when they were failed, they were mailed the bombs as a reminder of, their mortality.
Yeah, I don't believe that either.
Yeah, I don't believe it either.
Especially with the one where mailed to the dude's sister.
Yeah.
He don't even know where he ain't lived there in 10 years.
Yeah. He was living in a retirement home.
Yeah. And why you want to blackmail somebody who lives in a retirement home? Unless you want bingo chips.
Yeah. And police, they came to this theory that after it was noted that several of the victims and their loved ones were recipients. Oh, I can't fucking read today.
Yeah, you fucked up all ago, but I let it go. Go ahead.
What did I fuck up earlier?
When you said...
I'll catch it in the editing.
Something about the devices.
I'll catch it in the editing and fix it.
Oh, when you said he was using presentation devices instead of presentation cases. It ain't no big deal, but it still fits.
Yeah. Okay. Now, police came to this theory after it was noted that several of the victims and their loved ones were recent to speak to investigators. Were resident.
Didn't want to.
Yeah. Okay, let me start it over. Now, police came to this theory after it was noted that several of the victims and their loved ones didn't want to speak to the investigators.
Yeah, and say very little to say about the incident.
Yeah. One law enforcement source who chose to remain anonymous, he stated that it was like it happened, they learned their lesson, and they moved on. Right. It was like they wanted to choose or close the chapter in on it. That's all they wanted to do. I keep fucking reading, man.
Close it in on it.
Yeah.
Read that sentence.
Yeah. He said it was like it happened, they learned their lesson, and they moved on. It was like they wanted to close the chapter on it, man.
Yeah. So it is kind of odd, but I mean, I would, do you blame them after what the hell they done to that first family? I don't want to talk to them either.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't know. I don't know where it came from, and you don't know where it came from. And all you're going to do is blame me or my kids?
Yeah.
Way I look at it.
But police they couldn't find anything out. And police did reveal that they were planning on speaking to Craig Kipp. This was Joan's husband. He was the son of the first victim. Again, they was wanting to speak to him again in 1995. However, despite this announcement, and a $50,000 reward for any information they had, police stumbled upon a notable suspect just a short time later.
Right, and then just kind of dropped Kipp out of the picture.
Yeah. And this suspect, his name was Stephen Wavra. And this guy had served in the United States Navy from 1972 to 1973.
Right, and he did have a personal connection with the First Lady.
He did. But he was also diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic.
Yeah, while in the Navy.
And after he left the Navy, Stephen Wavra began to accumulate a long criminal history. Some of his various crimes include possession of noxious liquids, making bomb threats against political postal facilities and assaulting a military police officer.
Yeah, nice guy.
Yeah, nice guy. And twice he had actually been caught by law enforcement creating devices very similar to the one by the zip gun bomber. And twice he had been detained by authorities shortly after bombing and had raised a suspicion about possible involvement. Now, in 1983, a year after the death of Joan Kipp, this is the first victim in Brooklyn, cops were working on an unrelated case involving Stephen Wavra's roommate. And they've never announced his name, so we don't know his name.
Yeah.
But it was his roommate. And they were conducting a search of their home. Police found bomb-making equipment on their kitchen table, as well as a hollowed-out book similar to the one that was used to kill Joan. Similar to that cookbook.
Yeah.
And this Stephen Wavra claimed responsibility for the book and the equipment, saying that his roommate had no knowledge of what he was doing with it and did not tell anyone. I was using it for another crime. And he was actually going to use this on a military base.
Yeah, not through the mail, but actually going to take it to a military base.
Yeah.
Right.
So that would cut out that federal crime on the mail part of it. But yeah, I still committed the crime, but
yeah, I wasn't going to mail this, just so you know.
Yeah. But now, like you said, he had a connection to our first victim. It was learned that Joan Kipp had been Stephen Wavra's guidance counselor at Dyker Heights Junior High School.
Which would have been years before.
Yeah. So they were thinking that Stephen might have some kind of resentment for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, after all, he had been held back in school twice. They'd failed a couple grades. And investigators theorized that he might have held Joan responsible for all this.
Even though she was a counselor, I don't think she would have nothing to do with that. I think that's all grade related, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. They might have sit in on meetings and stuff to decide.
Yeah.
It could have been. We don't know how they work up there.
True.
But her being a guidance counselor, she may. But they did have that connection. He went to that school that she worked at.
Right.
Yeah. But Stephen denies all this and offered up a pretty convincing alibi to prove
you think
that he couldn't be held responsible for her death because he was in prison at the time.
Yeah.
He was incarcerated.
Yeah, it's hard to mail a bomb when you're in prison.
But it could have been where, his roommate had mailed it or something.
That's possible.
Yeah, he'd created it. So we don't know.
Yeah. No, we don't know when he went into prison or how long he was in prison.
But it was determined that he was in prison at the time of Joan's death.
Correct. But he'd been in and out of jail since leaving the Navy, so I mean, being in prison is a pretty solid alibi. And
he also came across the police crosshairs again over a decade later in '95. This is when Stephen mailed out a rambling 250-page manifesto he had written to several federal courthouses. He was arrested in a branch of the Brooklyn Public Library, and at the time of his arrest, he was discovered to be carrying a hollowed-out book which contained several X-Acto knives.
That's odd, isn't it?
Yeah, these little bitty knives for model making and stuff. These little bitty knives. And
that's your boy calling?
No, it's spam.
Okay, sorry.
Let's see.
X-Acto knives.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was discovered to be, let's see.
In addition
to 4 .22 caliber rifle shells were found in his possession.
Which is odd.
Very odd. Him being an ex-felon was illegal.
Yeah, not good. I mean, it's weird enough he was carrying around the book with the X-Acto knives in it, but the random 4 .22 caliber rifle shells is...
Who carries around a book with X-Acto knives in it?
I don't know. I guess schizophrenics from the
I
Navy.
guess. But the task force that was investigating the case of the zip gun bomber focused in on Stephen Wavra yet again, hoping to find a link between him and the bombs sent out over the last several years. And they learned about his tentative connection with the 1982 bombing of Joan Kipp.
I can see how they put them two together with the book and all that stuff, beside the point where he was in prison, but I don't know about the rest.
But the investigators were able to determine the connection not with Stephen, but with his roommate
slash accomplice.
Yeah, whose identity has never been released, like we said. But funnily enough, the police were able to determine that his roommate shared a pharmacist with each of the bombing recipients.
Every one of them.
Yeah. And
which is odd because they don't all live in the same place.
No, but they've shared the same pharmacist.
Right. I mean, the Brooklyn, Staten Island, and Queens, it's all three different boroughs.
Yeah. Just very weird.
That's odd to me.
Just a very loose connection.
That's weird.
Yeah. But despite not gaining enough evidence to charge Stephen Wavra or his roommate with the crimes, police remained convinced that two of them had some involvement, or perhaps knew more than they were talking about. Yeah, though there was a retired detective. His name was John Terragallo. He got some tough names up there in New York.
Yeah.
He worked on the case for over 2 years, and he stated it always came back to the two of them consistently. There was always a common denominator between them and the victims. Whether it was the pharmacy, the neighborhood, the hollowed out cookbook, there was a record of Wavra, his roommate, in the computer of each victim, local pharmacies. But we couldn't figure it all out. There was some connection there.
Yeah. To me, it looks like more like the roommate, dude.
It does, don't it?
Yeah, and I would say if they're living together and he's making bombs, I mean, it ain't like he's going to be in there eating cereal and watching cartoons while the guy's making bombs at the table and not ever inquire about it.
Yep. But Stephen Wavra and his unknown roommate were never charged. And that's why I think, too, he was never named, because maybe he was a pretty solid suspect. And they just never give out his name.
Yeah.
But they were never charged with a crime spree.
No, nothing.
But Wavra was later sentenced to 90 months
90.
in federal prison for being in possession of ammunition while being a convicted felon.
Right, them 4 shells.
Yeah, he served his sentence in Beaumont, Texas, before being released in March of 2005. And to this day, he continues to deny any involvement in the crimes of the zip gun bomber. So,
yeah.
And this case is still unsolved to this day.
It is. It's crazy. It's so random because nothing ties anything to anybody, the victims or any suspects. It's crazy.
But there is a $100,000 reward that exists for any information that may lead to this criminal, or being identified or detained by authorities.
Yeah, still up today.
Yeah, we want to do this case because it's something a little bit different, like a little palate cleanser for us, because we've been talking about a lot of murders and different things.
Which we still got a murder
missing
here.
People. Yeah, it is a murder.
Yeah,
but it's something different. I'd never heard of this till we got to looking at it, and it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah,
but it's still unsolved to this day.
Yeah, sorry, Rena. No in.
Yeah. All right, dude. That is the case of the zip bomber, which is not really
gun bomber.
Zip gun bomber. All right, dude. We're gonna get out of here, man.
Ooh, let's roll.
We want everyone to be safe. Please be careful and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.